Hello everyone, and welcome back to the PEX News Channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for fact-based analysis and sharp coverage of today's biggest global stories. Now let's dive into today's breaking news. A New York appeals court has just thrown out a massive civil fraud penalty against President Donald Trump. This penalty had ballooned to over $500 million when you factored in interest and fees, making it one of the most significant financial judgments ever imposed on a political figure in the U.S. Here's how we got here. The case began when New York Attorney General Letitia James filed a civil lawsuit against Trump, his family, and the Trump Organization. She alleged that Trump had exaggerated the value of his assets and properties in order to secure favorable loans and insurance deals. According to James' office, this amounted to fraud on a large scale, and last year, a lower court sided with her. That lower court imposed a staggering $355 million fine against Trump, a penalty that, with ongoing interest, had grown to about $530 million by the time the appeals court reviewed the case. But today, a panel of 5 appellate judges ruled that the financial penalty was unconstitutional. One judge described it as an excessive fine that violated the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution, which prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. In plain terms, the appeals court determined that the punishment did not fit the alleged misconduct. While the trial court had found wrongdoing, the scale of the fine was seen as disproportionate compared to what was proven. Legal experts have noted that this kind of mismatch between a violation and the size of a penalty was exactly why the 8th Amendment exists. So what does this ruling mean for Trump? For one, it removes the single largest financial threat hanging over him from this case. Without that $500 million judgment, Trump is no longer facing the prospect of having to liquidate assets or take on massive debt to cover the penalty. However, this does not mean the case is over. The appeals court did leave in place several injunctive rulings, basically restrictions and monitoring requirements on how Trump's businesses can operate going forward. The exact scope of that oversight still needs to be worked out, and the legal battle may not be finished yet. The case could be appealed once again, this time to New York's highest court, the Court of Appeals. That court could revisit not just the penalty, but also a bigger question. Did Attorney General Letitia James even have the authority to bring this kind of case in the first place? James relied on a consumer protection statute to argue her claims, but that law had never before been applied to complex, high-level financial transactions between banks, lenders, and sophisticated business entities. Critics argue that the statute was stretched far beyond its intended use. If the Court of Appeals agrees, the entire legal foundation of the case could be at risk. Trump's team, unsurprisingly, is celebrating today's decision. His spokesman, Stephen Chung, released a statement calling Letitia James' lawsuit a politically motivated crusade. He pointed to what he described as fatal errors in her case, including her controversial valuation of Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, which her office claimed was worth only $18 million, a figure critics say is absurdly low given the property's location and size. Chung framed today's ruling as yet another example of what he called lawfare against Trump, the use of legal systems and lawsuits as political weapons. On the other hand, Letitia James' office has made it clear that this setback will not deter them. They are not dropping the case. From their perspective, Trump and his organization engaged in fraudulent practices, and they remain committed to holding him accountable under state law. For Trump, though, this decision is undeniably a major win. Not only does it remove the crushing financial penalty, but it also gives him momentum in the court of public opinion. Analysts note that even people who aren't strong Trump supporters may see this ruling as evidence that the legal system has been unfairly weaponized. The idea that such a massive fine could be imposed and then thrown out as unconstitutional feeds into Trump's broader narrative that he's being targeted for political reasons. And in politics, especially in an election year, perception can be just as important as legal reality. To put it simply, today's decision changes the landscape. While Trump still faces multiple legal challenges across several states and at the federal level, this ruling takes one of the heaviest financial burdens off his shoulders. It also raises big questions about how far prosecutors and attorneys general can go in using existing laws to pursue high-profile political figures. So what's your take? Do you see this as justice being served or just another chapter in an ongoing political battle? Drop a comment below.